breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours, Jake Hasan, who does such great work over at Better Day with the show Off the Board with our buddy Kobe Marcio. He also does a great Substack, taking a look at this great game of baseball. We're going to chat it up with him about what we're all seeing in this amazing game of baseball right now, just how murky the American League playoff picture is, and then we'll dive into what we've all got on this day for Friday in the final segment. I am going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get on any Twitter/X questions. We had a small but fun day of baseball on Thursday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
This was definitely the pitcher's duel we were expecting in Atlanta. 1-0, the Braves get the job done. Drake Baldwin, the first batter of the game for the Atlanta Braves. He gets his 22nd home run of the campaign. That's all the scoring that we get. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was solid here. Tough luck loser gets up that home run in 6 1/3 innings. Jack Dreyer, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Edgar Enriquez, scoreless inning. And for Chris Hale, 109 pitches, complete game, 11 strikeouts, and Dodgers just could not do anything against him. For Jacob Mizorowski, he gets the job done against the New York Mets. 8-2 the final for the Miz, gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. 6 strikeouts for him is actually low, but Antonio Sensatella, DL Turnip Hall, Chad Patrick all lend a scoreless inning, and Sean Manaea gives up 6 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Jackson Chourio, 18th home run of the season. Then Chourio goes deep off of Xavier Curry for his 19th. Curry, 2 runs allowed in 2 1/3 innings. Austin Warren, a scoreless inning out of the bullpen, but too little too late out there. Don't look now, but the Royals have won 9 out of their last 10 games, 13-2. They completely lambasted the Blue Jays here. Spencer Urgetti, well, he upchucked Mom Spaghetti, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned. Give it up in his 4 innings of work as he was taken deep in this one by Carter Jensen, 18th home run of the season. Jack Aglione a little bit later on, 23rd home run of the season. That comes off the position player Miles Straw, who gives up 2 runs in an inning, and then Simeon Woods Richardson, who had been good for the Blue Jays, 6 runs allowed in an inning, including a home run to Vinny Pasquantino, 9th home run of the campaign. Braden Fisher, a scoreless inning. Michael Lorenzen, newly picked up, he gives up 1 run in 2 innings, and Noah Cameron continues to be rock solid for the Royals. So now giving up 200 runs or fewer in 6 out of his last 7 starts, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings here as he was taken deep in this game. George Springer, 13th home run of the season. From there, Alex Lang, Jose Quaz, and Anthony Gose were all able to give you 8 scoreless inning. Might be Gose, but either way, they were able to get the job done there. Nationals 7-1 all over the Rockies. For the Rockies, they end up stranding 13 men on base in this one, and the Nationals, they stranded 12, so if you like me had the over of 9, that was rough. Jake Irvin gives up a run in 4 1/3 innings. Tom Cosgrove, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. He had Clayton Beater give you 4 out scoreless, Orlando Oberta, scoreless inning, and Eric Tomlin, pair of out scoreless, and Gabriel Hughes, he gives up 4 earned runs over the course of 5 innings, including a home run to one Mr. Down Lyle, 18th home run season. Keibert Ruiz later on off of Jimmy Harrigan, 9th home run season. Harrigan gives up 3 runs in an inning. Juan Mejia and Nick Frazo both give you a scoreless inning, but too little too late out there. For the Astros, they pull this one off against the Yankees. 5-1 the final is. For the Bronx Bombers, well, they were not bombing against Hayden Wesneski. 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. Stephen Okert, Josh Hader both on the scoreless inning. AJ Bluba, 2 shutout innings. And for the Yankees, 0-9 with men in scoring position. Garrett Cole was more like a lump of coal. 3 runs allowed in 6 innings as he was taken deep by Christian Walker, 24th home run of the season. Then Jeremy Pena, 16th home run of the season. That comes off of Yuri De Los Santos, who gives up that home run in his inning of work. Justin Topa, an unearned run, give it up in 2 innings. So not what the Yankees were looking for there. This is what the Cardinals were looking for. How about a 7-5 winner over the Baltimore Orioles as Gordon Gassefo as the opener, 3 shutout innings. Justin Brule, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Luis Castillo, he gives 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Now Caleb Ferguson gives up 3 runs in an inning as Kobe Mayo took him deep for his 18th home run season. But then from there, George Soriano, an inning out of the bullpen, he gives up a run. Riley O'Brien, a scoreless inning, and Trevor Rogers, he was in the neighborhood for giving up runs. 6 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, including 2 bombs as Roman Urias gets his 3rd home run of the campaign. Same goes for Blaze Jordan, 3rd home run of the season. From there, Cam Sanders, 2 shutout innings. Anthony Nunez gives up a run in an inning. So Orioles, they're trying to make up some ground out there in the American League. Rough time there. And then in the late game, you saw the Giants get a nice 6-1 win over the Arizona Diamondbacks as Jose Cabrera, first start in quite some time, 2 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Does give up home run. Drew Gilbert, 8th home run of the campaign. From there, Taylor Clark, 5 outside the bullpen squirrels. Jonathan Loaiza gets a scoreless thing, and then Kevin Ginkel had a rough go of it in the 8th inning. 4 runs allowed in a third of an inning. Juan Burgos, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels, saying for the Giants, Landon Roop, good start here. Does give up a home run to Gabriel Moreno, 11th home run of the campaign. Gives up 1 run in 5 innings. And then Carson Seymour, Ryan Walker both give you a squirrel saying Trent Harris, 2 shutout innings. And if you're looking at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, saw some scoring on Thursday, but overall, it's been an underwhelming season now, as the under rate is right around about 51.1%, 1,003 unders and 958 overs, with, along the way, if math serves me correct now, 48 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line hitting at 56.4%, 1,102 and 851, and among those favorites now, a whopping 289 failed to cover the run line over the last 7 days. We're seeing the under rate more around about 55%, 49 unders, 40 overs, and 2 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line, 63.2%. Now, among the 55 favorites that have won outright, 21 failed to cover the run line, but 55 and 32, and in the last 30 days, favorites hitting at 58.2%, 227 and 163, with 72 of those favorites failing to cover the run line, and the under rate 54.8% in the last 30 days, 213 unders, 176 overs, and 10 pushes. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, let's chat it up with our good friend Jake Hasan over at Bettor Day, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
There she goes, our baby.
Are we ready for this?
You added her to your AAA auto policy. With 24/7 claim support, she's covered.
Our AAA agent, you're here too?
We're always here for you. Visit AAA.com/insurance to get a quote today.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Jake Hasan aboard. He does an absolutely tremendous job over at Bettor Day with our good friend Kobe Marcio with the show off the board. Additionally, I know that he's doing an absolutely amazing job with his own Substack. He goes beyond just Major League Baseball as well. He also does a great job with regards to college ranks as well, and I'm sure that he, like me, has to pay attention to these 100 million billion court cases. That's been a lot of fun, to say the least. I say that jokingly, but hey, Jake, doing a great job out there in the Midwest. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X at the Jake Hasan. Last name is spelled Hasan. And Jake, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, great to be on, Greg. Always a good time, man.
It always is a great time. And Jake, just how do you take a look at this American League playoff picture right now? Because it just feels like it's been as clear as mud since day number 1. There feels like every single time a team wants to be able to separate themselves, they're just like, oh no, I can't separate myself. I'm watching my figure. I can't take these wins that are being handed to me on a silver platter. And it's been chaos.
I mean, Greg, the case study and the perfect encapsulation of that is even just this past week alone, where the Orioles, the Blue Jays, they continue to have opportunities to gain traction here, and they just drop games to the Royals and to the Cardinals, and it makes no sense. Texas and Houston flip for the division lead every other day, it feels like. It's just no sense of clarity. I guess nobody wants to get into the playoffs. This is incredibly frustrating. It's really hard to try and read these tea leaves, and maybe that just means we need to stop trying and just look at the true contenders.
Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy to say the least. And when it comes to the true contenders, I think that we both agree the Rays certainly belong there. But who else belongs there? Because I do think that the Red Sox, they've done enough here in the second half of the season to have my trust. Still lukewarm on the Yankees. I like the fact that Cody Bellinger has come back and Luis Garcia has been nice. But at the same time, too, what the heck are we going to get out of Aaron Judge? And I think outside the Red Sox and the Rays, every single team has their questions right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, even the Rays and Red Sox have their questions, because Boston has cooled off a bit from the torrid run they were on a couple months ago. Obviously, we all knew that was unsustainable. We knew there would be some regression to some extent, but there's still questions about this Red Sox team. I think specifically in the lineup outside of guys like Wilson Contreras, and you also have the question of when and if Roman Anthony is going to come back. The Yankees have their questions of, what's this going to look like when Judge comes back? Are you putting too much emphasis on Judge's return and holding your breath and saying, we just got to make it to them. We just got to make it to them. And the Rays, too. I mean, are we really sure that a rotation anchored by Drew Rasmussen, Nick Martinez, and Shane McClanahan is going to be enough to get you to a World Series? There's questions everywhere. And then, of course, Houston and Texas, we know what the questions are with them. I agree with you. I think it's the Rays and the Red Sox as the true contenders in the American League. I'm still saving a little bit of space for the Rangers just because you see the talent. It's overflowing between Seager and DeGrom and Gore, and there's stars in that lineup and Langford and Young, but it's just, can these guys all stay healthy and can they all play well at the same time? We just watched DeGrom and Gore get shelled by the White Sox. I don't know, Greg. I guess it's just pick your favorite of the Rays and the Red Sox and just cross your fingers.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to say the least, and I'm not convinced that Jacob deGrom is fully healthy right now. What we saw out there in Chicago a few nights ago, not great to say the least. As Jake Hasan, he does such great work over at Better Day. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and I'm glad that you brought up the Rangers because they are sizable underdogs here against the Milwaukee Brewers as Logan Henderson, minus 170 to minus 180 favorite, total of 7.5. Want to get your thoughts here because Cody Bradford in his 4 starts for the Rangers has been pretty solid, but we know that he's coming off of major injury. Certainly the swing and miss stuff has not been there, and I do think that there might be a little bit of regression to how much contact that he's pitching to, especially against a Brewers team that they don't even need home runs to be able to put runs up on the board.
I do actually like the Rangers here. I've been a big Bradford guy this entire time that we've waited for him to return to the majors after a very serious injury. I always thought he had number 2 starter upside. You saw it a little bit when he was coming out of the bullpen for the Rangers during their World Series run. You've seen it in flashes when he's been healthy over the last couple of years. I actually like the matchup here. I do like Bradford a lot. And like I said, this Rangers team is uber talented. And so at plus 150 for a team that is really fighting for their playoff lives and knows that they have a chance at a division title. And that's a little narrative, admittedly, but I like Bradford. I like this team. I like them in a bounce back spot after that White Sox series where they were really disappointed.
Yeah, and certainly laying minus 170 to minus 180 on the Brewers if you're looking to do that every day. Probably not going to be going well for you, to say the least. And hey, Corey Seager being fully healthy, that's been helping them out as well. Yeah. And then I think this one is interesting because we mentioned the Rays in passing. Shane McClanahan, been a little bit up and down since coming off the injury list. And Casey Mize has not been what we expected out of the Padres. He's been shaky for them right now, minus 125, minus 135 with the Rays. Want to get your thoughts here because we've seen McClanahan have his issues recently, and we've seen the same for Casey Mize.
Yeah, we have seen the Padres play better, though, in the second half and really in the last couple of months. And this coincides with Fernando Tatis Jr. remembering how to hit home runs. But the Padres have played a little bit better. Don't forget Jackson Merrill. And Jackson Merrill as well, looking like an all-star. Remember, I guess reverse Monstart is what you would call it. But I like the Padres a little bit here. If we're talking about teams that are going to have to slug, maybe you're talking about a 6-5 game, something like that. I think that we could both see this going that way. And to that point, I kind of like the over 7.5 because I feel like this is going to go one of two ways, Greg. It's either going to be a game that is a double-digit total by the end of it, or it's going to be like a 3-2 game or a 2-1 game. I lean towards the over, getting the plus money there. And if I had to pick a side, proverbial water gun to the head, I would go with the Padres.
Yep, and it's been really a come up for this Padres offense, especially away from them, because we both know Petco does suppress offense a little bit there. As Jake Hasan, who does such great work over at Better Day, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then we actually have a day game here on Friday out there in your neck of the woods in Chicago, so obviously you have to cover that. I'm sure that you, much like me, probably don't want to be laying between minus 190 to minus $2 on David Peterson. That's not a way to make a living, but that's how we've got a total of 8.5 here with Rhett Lauder versus David Peterson. The win looks like it should be helping out these batters a little bit, and 8.5 with a pair of guys that they walk a bunch of guys. Even if you factor in the win, you're gonna get men on base with the walks. I do think that that's a little bit too low of a total here.
I agree with you. Rhett Lauder is fine. He's been finding his way as a young pitcher. I still think there's a ton of upside, but we've seen the volatility with him. And like you said, David Peterson is never somebody I'm rushing to back in general, but certainly not at minus 200. So I think it's the over here. And I would honestly, Greg, I can't believe we're saying this, but minus 135 for PCA over 1.5 total bases kind of feels like a bargain at where we're at in the season. We know that he's ticked off. We heard him say the things about the umps and how they missed the balk in Arizona a couple nights ago. So I think you might see the Cubs come out with a chip on their shoulder, a little ticked off. So I would also look at the team total over for them.
Yeah, certainly don't go with the money line. You either want to take a big shot on the dog or perhaps a run line of the Cubs if you think that they can win by multiple runs. What you mentioned with PCA, that's a good look as well. Minus 190 to minus $2. That's something that I just can't be backing there. But this is one that I think is interesting as well. The Cardinals have just been all over the place this year. Like they've hit so much better away from home rather than at home. But they seem to have found something against the Orioles. It's Jared Jones against Quinn Matthews, with this being a relatively pick'em game. Total of 8. And for Quinn Matthews, I think he's going to be good, but at the same time, he's got a lot of command issues, and Jared Jones is a up-and-comer that obviously has had his command issues as well. Want to get your thoughts here, because this is a game where I think that these two guys 3 or 4 years from now are going to be rock solid, but very raw in their current state.
Yeah, I'm a big Jared Jones guy. Obviously has the strikeout stuff. We've seen the flashes even as he's worked his way back from injury and as he gets further and further away from that Tommy John surgery that made him miss all of last year. But for a Cardinals team that doesn't strike out, I'm not going to look at the strikeouts for Jones. And I agree with you about Matthews. I think he's somebody that has a lot of upside here. I actually wonder if it's a little bit of a regression spot for the Cardinals after they kind of put a beating on the Orioles, especially the other night when they put up, what was it, 6-7 runs on Trevor Rogers, who had been pitching really well recently. I think that maybe there's some regression coming for the Cardinals, but you can't back this Pirates lineup right now as it's currently built as a favorite. If anything, it would be the home dog. I think I would wait until the last second because you're going to see people who know the name value of Jared Jones. They're going to bet on Jared Jones, and I think you might be able to get the Cardinals at a little bit better price right before first pitch.
Yeah, if I can get plus money or even money or better, I'm right there with you on the Cardinals. I made this a relatively pick'em game myself, so in agreement there. And we do have ourselves a fun slate here on this Friday. Lots of TBD, so a few games are off the board. Like we don't know what we're going to get priced at with Dylan Cease going for the Toronto Blue Jays. But anything else that's really standing out to you?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to look at Andrew Painter to go over his strikeouts, just because the Angels still are a team that strikes out so much, especially at home and especially in the second half. Those numbers have been in the 30s and nearly 30% strikeout rate, both at home and in the second half for the Angels. So Painter hasn't quite lived up to the billing of what we thought he was going to be, but he's somebody I'm going to be looking to back here in the late game.
Yep, and I think that could be a good spot for the under as well. I'm a big Reed Detmers guy personally as well. He's really put it together with 1 run allowed in his last 3 starts, and Phillies haven't quite hit the same away from him rather than at home. So I think it could be a good spot for both of those pitchers, and it's always a great spot to have you aboard, Jake, because you're doing an incredible job looking at this great game of baseball, both college and pro. You and Kobe Marcio do a great job over at Better Day, and I know you've got quite a bit that's going on, especially for the upcoming changing of the season. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, the Substack, hasanshacks.substack.com is where we're following this American League playoff race, trying to find some value, trying to keep track of the numbers there. Parsed through the NL Rookie of the Year debate this last couple days as well. But of course, we have game picks as well. And then I'm posting as well picks, analysis, and just general tomfoolery over on my Twitter and Instagram at the Jake Hasan and Hasan_Jake on Instagram.
We always love the tomfoolery. That's what my Twitter/X feed is for as well. So all for that. And Jake, every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to Jake for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. And up next, I give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we catch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by our guy, Jake Hasan, who does such great work over at Better Day. He's doing a great job with his own Substack and so much more. And every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Jake for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games also in time order, and the Interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get her started. This is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati, on the road against the Chicago Cubs as Rhett Lauder looks to make some noise for Cincinnati, who we're on to. And then you've got David Peterson, great name, going for the Cubs. Cubs are between minus 190 to minus $2 favorites, and between minus 185 to minus $2 is that number on the Chicago Cubs. Right now, that opening total is an 8.5. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And plus 172 or better did put me in here on the Reds, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line. Now, with regards to this total, you do need to realize that the wind is going to be all over the place on this day. It looks like we're going to be getting a little bit of outward wind, and I was initially thinking that it was going to be blowing inward. I had to jack up my total a little bit more as a result, and that does put me in on the over. Anything of a 9 or less is going to have me in on the over, as a matter of fact, as I did set my total here at a 9.4, as you've got a guy in David Peterson who isn't really allowing much of the deep ball, 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, but is allowing darn near 4 walks per 9 innings, pitching to a lot of contact with about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. And I will say for Peterson, he's not been as bad as the ERA would indicate. Right now, his ERA is a nice hearty 5.17 thus far this season. Fielding dependent is more around about a 4.01, but when you're only getting about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, that's an issue. And Rhett Lauder, he is pitching to a lot of contact as well. For Lauder, he is certainly making noise with a 5.13 ERA. About 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings with only 7 punch-outs per 9 and 3.6 walks per 9 innings. And you do have a Chicago Cubs team that right now leads all of baseball in terms of run creation. Pete Armstrong has obviously been incredible for this unit, over 30 home runs thus far this season, and just have a lot of guys in general that find a way on base for the Chicago Cubs, and you do have a lot of mashers. As Seiya Suzuki, he's been able to give you an on-base percentage that is right around about a 360 or so, and he's been able to give you 22 home runs. You've got Alex Bregman now up to 19 home runs, 252 average, but a 342 on base. Ian Happ only hits for like a 220, but 327 on base, 23 home runs. So you've got a lot of these guys that don't necessarily have the world's greatest batting averages, but they find a way on. Carson Kelly, 260 average, 340 on base. And flip side for the Cincinnati Reds, they've been a top 3 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis since the All-Star break in the National League. Now, they let go of Eugenio Suarez and just throw him up on waivers, but still have J.J. Bleday, Cousin Sal Stewart, along with Ellie De La Cruz, all with at least 21 home runs. Bleday only hits about a 220, but a 333 on base. De La Cruz, 23 stolen base, it's 345 on base, and Sal Stewart, 100 RBI, 335 on base, 28 home runs. Bottom of the lineup with these guys like TJ Friedl, who I think that they're trying to get rid of right now. Throw in there these young gun players like a Brian Hayes, Navoli, Marte. You've got a lot of guys hitting below at 200, so that bottom half of the fold has been a little bit rough. And for the Cubs, they do have reinforcements in the bullpen with Daniel Palencia now active. Ryan Sefriano, they picked up at the trade deadline, neither here nor there with him. But you know what? These guys like Ryan Rolson, Jacob Webb, they've been able to give you sub 350 ERA. Reds continue to be a bottom 17 in terms of bullpen ERA. Pierce Johnson, Sam Moll, Zach McKembley, all posting up an ERA above a 4. Emilio Pagan is right there as well, but I've been able to get some solid innings out of Julian Garcia, TJ Antone, sub 335 ERA out of those two guys along with Brock and Olberg. So plus 173 or better in on the Reds, and like the over, so my total 9.4. 9:53, 9:54 on the card. It is the Marlins. They are going to be on the road facing off against the Washington Nationals, as Jackson Kent is going to be on the bump for the Nats, and Uri Perez is on the bump for the Fish, and the Fish do find themselves as a favorite. Going to be laying with them anywhere between minus 130 to minus 154, so quite a range there between plus 120 to plus 130. Center on Washington, 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8.5. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115 on the 8. The over is minus 120, and the under is even money, and I do like that 8.5 to the under. I did set my total at an 8.2 just because Uri Perez has been that good. Now, throughout his career, his ERA does go up by nearly a full 1.5 versus away from home, but he's been able to iron out those splits this season. And for the Washington Nationals, they're still without James Wood. I recognize that C.J. Abrams has been able to do a pretty incredible job, 29 plus home runs. He's been giving you over a 350 on base, but outside of Dallin Lyle is giving you 15 or 16 home runs. You do have a little bit more of a power outage right now. They traded away Luis Garcia at the trade deadline. They've got some of these other mix and match guys that were so solid towards the beginning part of the season currently out, and just haven't been able to get anything out of Dylan Cruz. Now, you have been able to have Keibert Ruiz hit for a 280, and he's up to now 9 home runs this season, but Brady House less than a 300 on base. Cruz, who I mentioned before, is there. Andres Shapiro, 360 on base. He's starting to put it together, and I do like the fact that Nasim Nunez gives you all those stolen bases, but still, you do have some issues on that front. And for Uri Perez, overall for the season, his numbers are neither here nor there. He's posting up an ERA that is right around about a 317, which is good, but I would argue that he's been much better than that. Fielding dependence, a 367, 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, was really hurt by the walks that he was giving up earlier in the season, about 3.7 walks per 9 innings, but I mean, really towards, I would say, like the late part of May is when things really turned around from. He has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 1 out of his last 12 starts, and he has put up 2 earned runs or fewer in all but 2 of those starts. In this time span, the team is only 7-6, but he's given up, I believe, 14 runs in 13 starts in terms of earned runs, 16 runs in total, 167 ERA, has allowed 3 home runs in 75 innings. He's been that dominant. Now, for the Miami Marlins since July 1st, they've been a bottom 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Calvin Fauché just has not been good for the team. Pete Fairbanks lands on the injury list. That's honestly probably a good thing for the squad, but I really do like the sort of mix and match guys, some of the longer guys for the team, but they do let go of John King, a guy that I actually like, but he was starting to toilet bowl. Michael Peterson, he's up to right around about a 375 or so ERA. Josh Eknes has been solid, though, and when it comes to Miami Marlins, not a lot of power for this team. They are a bottom 6 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but Alberto Hernandez, he's up to 20 home runs, and then Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, Jacob Marcy, Asterio Ruiz, all of these 19 stolen bases this year. You're getting back Kyle Sowers, who's got 15-plus home runs, and Griffin Conine, about a home run every 14 to 15 at-bats. Javier Sanja is bailing above a 270 as well. So I do think that for the Marlins, they are going to be able to get to a young gun guy in Jackson Kent that just really hasn't been able to put it together at the big league level. Maybe there's going to be some upside for him moving forward, but I mean, he's only made, I believe now, 3 starts, and he has allowed 11 runs in 12 1/3 innings, and he's given up 11 walks in that time span. So command has been very shaky and was at the minor league level as well. Set the Marlins at a -146, all the way up to -145 on the money line. Like that 8 after the under semi-total at an 8.2, 955, 956 on the card. It's Braves playing us to the Colorado Rockies. We do know that Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for the Rockies. Right now, it's undecided for the Braves. Right now, one initial opener has the Braves at a -220, plus 184 on the Rockies, total of 9, under -120, and the over at even. If you're looking to lay a run out, by the way, with the Atlanta Braves, that is -102, and I'm looking at the run line. I'm willing to go up to a -118. This is assuming we get Grant Holmes, and if we don't get Grant Holmes, honestly, it's not going to be much of a downgrade because Grant Holmes has really not been great this far this season. I know that 364 ERA, not too bad, but 485 fielding dependent, 1.4 home runs, 3.9 walks per 9 innings. And Tomoyuki Sugano is actually a top 10 most powerful pitcher in all of baseball because the Rockies actually have a winning record when he's out there on the mound. I don't know how. 496 ERA, 543 fielding, dependent, giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, and he's pitching to an almighty amount of contact with only 5.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's been far worse when he's been away from him this year. A 5 ERA compared to a 491 ERA away from him, so that relatively irons out, but away from him, the home runs per 9 rate is well above 2. So, I mean, when your home and road splits are relative equals with regards to ERA, when your home ballpark is Coors Field, that's not a place where you want to be, and I recognize that the Atlanta Braves, over the last few weeks, they've been a little bit hot and cold with their lineup, but still, this has been a top 10 group in terms of total run creation. You got Drake Baldwin, Michael Harris, Alon Albies. I'll give you between 20 to 21 home runs. Baldwin is up to about a 340 or so on base, and then for Harris, he's been able to about a 290. Matt Olson still at 37 home runs. He's been rock solid. Neymar, Mike Yastrzemski, Austin Riley at the bottom of the fold, and Asung Kim, almighty bad season for him. But hey, had a walk-off winner a few days ago, and on the other side of things for the Rockies, they do have Hunter Goodman back. He's been able to give you a 34-plus home runs this season, so that is massive. And Mickey Moniak, 20-plus home runs. He's done a solid job in terms of being above like a 260 or so. We've seen Cole Gehrig start to toil up a little bit with that average. He and Willie Castro between about a 260 to a 265, but and you still have TJ Brownfield hitting a 290, Jake McCarthy's hitting a 290, and this Rockies bullpen is still all sorts of rocky. The guys like a Juan Mejia, Jordan Romano, if you look at the overall season numbers, not just him, in a Rockies uniform, Jimmy Erget, Jaden Hill, Dick Frazo, these are all guys posting up an ERA well above a 450. Brendan Bernardino has been solid, but for the Braves, top 3 team in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA, the Dillons, Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, DDA Fuentes, Raisio Iglesias, all a sub 335 ERA. I like Victor Medeiros as well. So looking at the over, semi total 9.3, we'll delay up to a -118 on the Braves run line, even if you don't get Holmes as a starter in this spot. 9:57, 9:58 on the card. It's the Cardinals. They're going to be playing us the Pirates as Jared Jones goes for the Buccos. Quinn Matthews is on the bump for the Cardinals. The total on this game going to be find that anywhere between an 8 to an 8.5 on the 8.5. The under is -120 and the over is even. Seeing a lot of 8s starting to pop up as well. That under is -115, over is -105, and so I told it an 8.7. I like the over. Recognize that the Cardinals are last in terms of run creation among National League teams, specifically at home. They're averaging over 5 runs per game away from them, 3.8 runs per game when they're at home, but I just really don't have any faith whatsoever here in Quinn Matthews. He's gotten a cup of coffee here at the big league level, and it just hasn't panned out for him thus far. He's rocking a 6.43 ERA, with the big thing being the command. He's been giving up about 4.5 walks per 9 innings, and you look back at what he did at the minor league level earlier this season for AAA Memphis, and he was giving up a whole bunch of walks on that front, as well as he was giving up over 5 walks per 9 innings, as a matter of fact. Was able to do a solid job with the swing and miss stuff, but when you're at the minor league level having a tough time locating, that's a little bit of an issue. And on the other side of things for Jared Jones, it's been a very up-down, shaky season. If you look at the ERA of a 4.76, he should be doing for some positivity with that. 4.16 fielding dependent. He's getting 10.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.5 home runs, 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, so the hard contact has really come back to bite him. But after a really shaky, I would say like late July, early August, starting to straighten things out. He's now given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 2 of his starts since the beginning of the month of July. Just really marred by the fact that he gave up the 8th spot against the New York Mets. So that's been a little bit of an issue, and he is backed up by a bullpen that is 16th in the league in terms of bullpen area. You're starting to see them rounding into a little bit of better form. Kirby Yates has been a nice pickup for the team along with Luke Weaver. You've also been able to get some good innings out of Evan Sisk when he's been out there, as he's been a little bit banged up. And on the other side of things, you've got a Cardinals team that still has Jordan Walker, who's been able to supply you with 24 plus home runs, and for this bunch, you've got quite a few guys that do a nice job in terms of just being able to find a way on base, like Ivan Herrera, J.J. Weatherhole, Alec Burleson. They're all at least a 345 with regards to on base. Burleson, he's up over 20 home runs this season. The big thing is, bottom of the fold, these guys like Pedro Paz, Ramon Urias, Nolan Gorman, even Joshua Baez, a 3 home run man from about 2 weeks ago. They're all hitting below a 215, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this continues to be a top 5 offense in terms of run creation. O'Neal Cruz has been off the injury list for a little bit over a week. He's been able to supply a pair of bombs. Brandon Lau, he's getting loud. He's been able to give you 24 plus home runs. And then you've got someone like a Jake Magnum who's hitting a 300. Nick Gonzalez is hitting about a 300. You continue to get 370 on base out of Brian Reynolds with about 15 home runs as well. So I do think that this is going to be a game that sees some scoring, like the over set my total at 8.7. And with the Cardinals, I set them quite literally here at a -101. Right now, this is a relatively pick'em game. I am starting to see even money in a spot or two on the Cardinals. Even money or better puts me in there. So in on the Cardinals at even money or better, and I like the over. 959, 960 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks on the road against the Giants. We do know that Blade Didwell is going to be on the bump for the Giants, and right now this is listed as to be determined for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Don't have any openers up on this game, but as of right now, Fangraphs is projecting Cole Drake getting the start for this one, and if you do get the Drake, I'm going to be willing to make the Giants a very slim favorite. Up to a -107 is what I'd be willing to lay there. Set them at a -108, plus 109 or better, going to be in the Diamondbacks, and made a total of an 8.2. 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or higher the under. Now, if you don't get Cole Drake, you're probably going to get like a mix and match game where you'll see like a long reliever and Dre Jemison probably get some innings. And even if you do get Drake, you're probably still going to be staring at a lot of bullpen use here for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They just brought back Jose Cabrera yesterday, and for Drake, he's had a cup of coffee at the big league level. 4 starts, 540 ERA, 548 fielding dependent. Not really blowing you away with about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. You'll look at what he did at the minor league level, and he was absolutely atrocious. Now it's a PCL where it's a juice ball league at a lot of elevation and a lot of hot places, but he was getting there 7.8 strikeouts of 5 walks per 9 innings. There's really not a lot of faith to be had there. And for Blade Tidwell, I actually am in on him a little bit. 3.58 ERA. The fielding dependent is a 3.51. He really doesn't allow a lot of hard contact. 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. Bit of a pitcher contact guy. 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but you're able to get away with that a little bit more when you're out there in San Francisco. And for the Diamondbacks, obviously, the Ketel Marte situation, that's not necessarily great to say the least. Now, you've been able to get some good production out of a pair of guys, Nolan Arenado along with Corbin Carroll. These guys, they've been able to combine for about 39 home runs this season, so they've been able to do a nice job holding down the fourth there. Then you've got Lars Nootbaar along with Max Kepler, a pair of struggling veterans I think are going to be able to round into a little bit of better form. Ryan Goldschmidt is getting on base, hitting about a 275. Gabriel Moreno sitting at 300. But again, not a lot of power outside of Arenado along with Corbin Carroll. Flip side for the Giants, they're dealing with a whole bunch of injuries. They get Bryce Eldridge off the bereavement list. That's big. He's giving you over 340 on base. That means that now you've got two players with more than 7 home runs in the starting lineup because Willie Adames is dealing with an injury. Now, Jung-Ho Lee is also now dealing with a little bit of ailment, so that's a bit rough, but Rafael Devers has actually really picked it up. He's up to 29 home runs, hitting nearly 250. They're relying upon someone like former Astros prospect Shea Whitcomb. They're looking at Christian Koss, guys like this to be able to step up. Drew Gilbert. So, I mean, it's a mismatch with regards to the lineup, but I do think that Didwell gives you a relatively good start. And this is a Giants team in the bottom 10 in terms of bullpen ERA. Just so many injuries. Matt Gage, Keaton Wynn, JT Brubaker, all out of the fold. Do like Dylan Lee alongside Mentages, sub 350 ERA out of them, but Jason Foley has over a 4 ERA. Revier St. Martin has been absolutely awful. And I will say for the Diamondbacks, they DFA Paul Sewell. That's a good thing. These guys like Jonathan Loaizaga, Juan Murillo, Gerald Carrillo, along with Taylor Clark. These are all guys who have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. So an interesting spot here. 8 or less in on the over 8.5 or higher the under. 1 to lay up to minus 107 with the Giants. Plus 109 or better looking at the Diamondbacks. 961, 962 on the card. The Yankees are going to be playing us the Red Sox as Patrick Sandoval is on the bump for the Red Sox and Cam Schlittler goes for the Yankees. It's on game between 7.5 to 8. On the 7.5 over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. Seeing the straight 8 under is minus 120 and the over is even money. Yankees between minus 160 to minus 170 favorites. Between plus 140 to plus 150 is that number on the Boston Red Sox. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Yankees, find that as good as a plus 135. And I set my money line price at a minus 163. I've got a little bit of value on both the money line and the run line. I would rather play it safe with a chalkier money line because I do think that even though you get an over here, I said I told 7.7, so I'm in on the 7 after the over. It is still Yankees versus Red Sox. It's still this heated rivalry, and you do have to be very mindful of the fact that Cam Schlittler just honestly has not been the same pitcher when he's been at home rather than away from home. For Schlittler, 1.14 ERA with 0.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings when he has been away from home. 3.71 ERA with a full home run allowed per 9 innings at home. But you do have Patrick Sandoval who's starting to really regress. 4.54 ERA, 1.1 home runs, 4.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. And for the Yankees, last 52 games are averaging about 3.8 runs per contest, but it does seem as though things are starting to round back into form a little bit more for this unit as you've got Cody Bellinger back in the fold. Luis Garcia is up to 28 home runs. He has been a nice ad at the trade deadline for this team. And you saw these guys like Jazz Chisholm, Trent Grisham, Austin Wells, Ryan McMahon, so many guys hitting below at 230. Spencer Jones is starting to pick it up a little bit, but say Kyle Brayer not giving you a whole life a lot. No, George Lombard, even though he doesn't have a ton of power, moves the line, and then obviously Ben Rice with 30 plus home runs out of him. For the Red Sox, they are number 1 in the big leagues in terms of run creation since the All-Star break with about 5.5 runs per game. So Don Rafael, along with Weiler Abreu post All-Star break, have been top 10 players in terms of home runs since the break. And then you've had your main guy just really be able to step up in Wilson Contreras, 26 home runs, 390 on base. Caleb Durbin over the last 60 days is sitting well above a 275. Masataka Yoshida up to about a 350 on base. Has been in and out of the lineup, but still, you've been able to get production out of someone like a Nick Sogard in a small sample size. Mickey Gasper has like 5 home runs over the last 2 weeks as well. And these are the top 2 teams in terms of bullpen ERA in the league as well. Like so many guys have been able to step up for the Red Sox in the absence of Garrett Woodlock. Obviously, you saw Aroldis Chapman at the closer spot, but Alec Emboa, Teran Guerrero, Giovanni Morin, so many guys with a sub 3 ERA still been able to get some good production out of Greg Weisert after a shaky start to the season. And for the New York Yankees, you had David Bednar doing a good job in terms of not pooping the Bednar. Now, I believe Fernando Cruz either is going to be hitting the injury list or already has. I've got, in fact, out for this series, but Yuri De Los Santos, he now comes in. He's posted up like a 1 ERA this season. I've always liked him. Additionally, Brent Hedrick, Paul Blackburn, sub 2 ERAs out of those 2 guys. Tim Mill, after a shaky start to the season, he's starting to pick it up. On El Shavili, if needed, he's able to give you some good innings as well. So I do think that Schlittler is going to give up some runs. I do think that the Yankees get to Sandoval. So at these 7.5, I like the over, so my total 7.7 for the Yankees. I'm willing to lay the minus 160 money line, sub 9 at a minus 163. 963, 964 on the card. It is the Blue Jays, and they're going to be playing us to the Seattle Mariners. Mariners right now have this listed as to be determined. Meanwhile, Dylan Cease, he goes for the Blue Jays. I was projecting that this was going to be Emerson Hancock, and if you do get Hancock out there for the Seattle Mariners, I set the Blue Jays at a minus 178, so I'm willing to go up to a minus 177 there, or a plus 118 or better. Going to be looking at the run line, and then with regards to the total, sub 9 at a 7.2, 7 or less than on the over, 7.5 or higher the under. We need at least a plus 179, by the way, to take a shot here on the Mariners. And if you do indeed get Emerson Hancock, he's been relatively solid. Like, anyone not named Hancock, most likely going to be a downgrade here because, he's gone out there and maybe he's not blowing the world away. 3.37 ERA, getting about 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but only 2.2 walks per 9 innings. Relatively stable home and road splits as well. Dylan Cease has just been that guy for the Blue Jays. So how about a 2.37 ERA, 2.39 fielding dependent with 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, walks always going to be a little bit of an issue for him. He's been giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings, but faces off against a Seattle Mariners lineup that is in the bottom 5 in terms of run creation. And for Dylan Cease, you'll look at what he's been able to do ever since the beginning of the month of June, and he has just really put it together. Team is 9-4 in his last 13 starts. He's got a 1.86 ERA in this time span, and he's been getting the darn near 13 strikeouts per 9 innings like he has all season long. Now, for the Mariners, you did have big dumper Cal Raleigh have 4 home runs in that previous series, so maybe he's starting to figure out a little bit of something. Randy Arozarena has been very solid. He's been able to give you an on-base percentage that hovers in the neighborhood about a 375. He's up to 19 to 20 home runs. Julio Rodriguez has been able to supply now 19 to 20 home runs along Dom Canzone as well. Both of these guys in between about a 245 to a 255, but Brandon Donovan back on the injury list. That's just absolutely killing this team as how the infield is mix and match with guys like Leo Rivas and company that are not great to say the least. JP Crawford has given you nothing this year. And for the Mariners, since July 1st, this has been a bottom 5 team in terms of open area. You've got a few studs like Andres Munoz, second half of the season, saying that series against the Astros has been solid. Now they're getting back Carlos Vargas. He and Gabe Spire, sub 250 ERA. Edward Bizardo has about a 3 ERA, but Jose Ferrer now above a 350 ERA. You're still missing Matt Brash out of that bullpen. You've been trying some of these mix and match guys to be able to hold down the fort, and with Nick Davia, he's up over a 4 ERA. They let go of Alex Hoppe at the trade deadline. Michael Rucker, a 6 ERA, and that's not a place where you want to be. Meanwhile, for the Blue Jays, this has been a top 11 team in terms of opening ERA. Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, these two guys have been very rock solid, and in a Blue Jays uniform as a long guy, gotten some good work out of Simeon Woods Richardson as well. I do like the way that Braden Fisher has run it in a form as well, and shouldn't need too much of the bullpen here. So 7 or less, looking at the over 7.5 or the under for the Blue Jays, plus 118 or better. Looking at the run line, set the money line at a minus 178, so need at least a plus 179 to take a shot here on the Mariners. 965, 966 on the card. It is the Kansas City Royals. They're going to be on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Tanner Bybee goes for Cleveland. Michael Wacha, and if he has a bad start, it's the dying Pac-Man voice of Michael Wacha. Goes for the Royals. Right now, the Cleveland Guardians are going to be finding them anywhere between minus 135 to a minus 138. Royals are between plus 118 to a plus 125. Totals between 7.5 and 8. On the 7.5, over is minus 120. The under is even. On the 8, under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. And I'm going to be in on the over. I did set my total at an 8.4. For the Royals, they do continue to be last in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from them, hovering between 3.6 to 3.7 runs per game. But entering into the day yesterday, they've been winners of 9 out of their last 10 games. You're still getting no on-base whatsoever. Jack Caglione along with Carter Jensen, but both guys up to 16 plus home runs. You've had Jack Caglione give you over 20 home runs. Bobby Witt Jr. continues to give you a whole bunch of stolen bases, over a 360 on base on dealing with an injury once again to Michael Massey. I mean, man, that guy can't stay healthy. And some of these guys like John Grave, Nick Lofton, they'll get on base for you from time to time, but still, you're going to need to get a little bit more out of them moving forward. Tyler Tolbert, though, has actually been able to hit well above a 285, so I like what I'm seeing there. And for the Guardians, even though overall for the season this continues to be a bottom 5 unit in terms of run creation, they revamped themselves at the trade deadline. You've got Joe Adell, who's up to 20 plus home runs. Anel Genoa has been able to give you about a 350 on base, and then you've had Chase Lauder be able to give you 350 on base. Now deal with a little bit of injury, so most likely not going to be out there for Friday. We'll see if we get him more towards the back half of the series, but Steven Kwan well above a 425 on base ever since the All-Star break. Nathaniel Lowe has been able to give you a bit of something. Guardians continue to be in the top half of the big leagues in terms of opening area. You've got Eric Zabrowski, Hunter Gaddis hovering between about a 325 to a 350 ERA. Craig Yoho, after a rough go of it with the Guardians to start out with, he's starting to round into form as well. Cade Smith, he's been very reliable as a closer, and Colin Olderman living up to his name as well for the Royals. Your big Achilles heel, and this is a big reason why I'm going to be in on the over. Second worst bullpen in terms of ERA. Have they straightened it up a little bit with Nate Pearson? Sure, Alex Lang is giving you a sub 4 ERA, but I have no faith whatsoever in Craig Kimbrell. It's been a brutal season for so many of these mix and match guys like a Steven Cruz. It was so bad that they had to let go of Matt Strahm as well. And when it comes to Michael Wacha, he's actually been quite a bit better when he has been at home rather than away from home. Just a sturdy veteran that's giving you about a 349 ERA, only about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but about 1 home run, maybe a little bit more than that per 9 innings, actually closer to about 1.2, but that actually shrinks to about 1 home run per 9 innings when he's away from home. But ERA does go up to about a 389 as well. So You've got an interesting circumstance here with a guy in Tanner Bybee that he himself just has not been able to light the world on fire with his swing and miss stuff. His 7.1 strikeouts per 9 innings are a career low, and while the ERA is respectable, it's a 3.97. Fielding independence more around about a 4.61, and he's been able to round into form in terms of the command. He's only giving up 2.5 walks per 9 innings, but has been giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and just hasn't really been in great form recently. In 3 out of his 4 starts here in the month, he has given up at least 3 runs in all but one of them, so he's had some issues there. It's just been an up-down all-around season for him. And for the Guardians, I do think that they're going to be able to do a solid job getting to this Royals bullpen, and both of these teams have actually been top 10 teams in terms of run creation, in terms of runs per game here in the month of August. So I do like the over. I did set my total at an 8.4, and with the Guardians, I'm going to be willing to take them here on the money line, set them at a minus 136, 967, 968 on the card. It is the White Sox. They are going to be on the road against the Twins, as you've got Dean Kramer going for the Twins, Luis Castillo for the Southsiders, and the White Sox do find themselves as a relative even money underdog. You're going to be finding this anywhere in the neighborhood of even money to minus 102. Meanwhile, minus 110 to minus 118. Then around Minnesota 9 is the total. Under is minus 110 to minus 115. Over is between minus 105 to a minus 110. And I'm in on the White Sox and anything of pretty much even money or better. I set them as a slim minus 103 favorite. I do have trepidations with both of these starters right now for Luis Castillo. Just has not been a great season for him, and he's always been a power pitcher going all the way back to his time with the Cincinnati Reds back in the day, and that just hasn't been there this far this season. He's getting a hair above 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He had a 5.06 ERA with the Seattle Mariners, 5.89 ERA here with the White Sox, so his swing and miss stuff has been up a little bit, but 1.6 home runs, 2.8 walks per 9 innings, not necessarily impressed there. And then for Dean Kramer, he's been better here with the Minnesota Twins, but he has still just allowed so much hard contact this year. 5.22 ERA, 5.18 fielding independent, 2.1 home runs per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff is up to about 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Other than his cup of coffee at the big league level in 2020, that's actually a career high for him. But for the Minnesota Twins, you also have a lineup that you have to have some question marks and trepidations with as well, because for this Twins bunch, you've got Byron Buxton, who hasn't hit a home run in an eon, and since coming off the injury list, he's been hitting well below $175. Now, you've had Cody Clemens be able to give you 20 plus home runs. Brooke Lee is up to 20 home runs as well, but neither of these guys are doing the world's greatest job getting on base. Now, who is doing a good job? Luke Cashiel. He's been able to give you about a 365 on base. Same goes for Ryan Jeffers. Whenever Trevor Larnach has been out there, he's done a solid job in terms of moving the line as well. So you like what you're seeing out of these guys, and Buxton might be injured for this game as well, but honestly, that might not be a downgrade with the way that he's been playing here over the last few games. We'll say Josh Bell, after he had a really shaky start to the season, he's been playing much better recently. He's up to 17 home runs. You take a look at what he's been able to do over the last, we're going to call it 45 or so days, over a 350 on base there. And then on the other end, for the White Sox, this continues to be a top 8 team in terms of run creation. You got Miguel Vargas, Colson Montgomery, Montaka Murakami, all with at least 24 home runs this year. Now, for Montgomery, less than a 300 on base. And for Murakami, he's only hitting like a 230 or so, but over a 350 on base. Miguel Vargas moves the line, but then Tristan Peters hits a 270 with functional power. Sammy Tanachi, 360 on base. You've been able to have some of these mix and match guys be able to step up, like a Randall Grichuk, a nice veteran bat for this team. And since July 1st, this has been a top 6 team in terms of opening rate. They take a little bit of a blow with Oscar Brisbane now on the injury list, but Jordan Nix, Brian Hudson, Sean Newcomb, Grant Taylor, all these guys have been pretty solid in the bullpen. The only one with above a 350 ERA is Hicks with about a 383, and that was actually below a 350 prior to about a few days ago. And for the Twins, if you do look since July 1st, they've actually been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Still have to have some, shall we say, question marks with this bullpen. Travis Adams still has well above a 4 ERA. Lon Taylor Rogers, they upgraded with bringing in likes of AJ Minter, Jeff Hoffman at the trade deadline, and Yandres Gomez in a Twins uniform well below a 3 ERA himself. So it leads to a very interesting circumstance here with the White Sox minus 102 or better. Like that money line, and I do like the under with the way that Buxton has been banged up and ineffective. Semi-total at an 8.8. 969, 970 on the card. The Athletics are going to be playing us to the Orioles. Brandon Young is on the bump for the O's, and Jacob Lopez should be starting here for the Athletics. Right now, they have yet to announce him as a starter because they might utilize an opener from. So this is a game that's off the board. Even if you don't get Jacob Lopez, man, it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle here, as I did have to set the Orioles as a favorite. I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 147 on the Orioles, plus 149 or better. Looking at the Athletics, and then made a total of a 9.6, 9.5 or less. Going to be in on the over, a 10 or higher to the under. The Athletics have been playing a lot of unders recently because this is just a team that is so badly banged up that it's not even funny. Your top 3 home run hitters are now all on the injury list. Tyler Soderstrom, Nick Kurtz, Shea Langoliers. These are guys that are pretty much done for the season at this point. Zach Gelof has been solid. He's been able to give you a 14 or 15 home runs. He's hitting above a 250, so that's been nice. And then Jeff McNeil, not a lot of power, but he's hitting like a 265. You've got these other guys like Henry Bolte, who's been able to give you about a 350 on base. Carlos Cortez at 330 on base. Like, you've got guys that are able to get on. Alika Williams, another one of those guys, but really not a lot of power here. And out there in Sacramento, I do think that's going to be becoming a little bit more pitcher friendly here as the month of September starts to begin. And on the flip side of things for the Orioles, it is a little bit of an all or nothing lineup themselves. Pete Alonso has been incredible. He's up over 30 home runs, back up to about a 360 on base, starting to live up to that contract. And then additionally, you've been able to get a little bit of something here recently out of Christian Encarnacion Strain, sitting at 275 and 7 home runs and 110 at bats. That's all, but I mean, so many of these guys like Colton Cowser, Tyler O'Neill, Leody Taveras, Kobe Mayo, even Gunnar Henderson. These are all guys hitting at 226 or lower. Now, in the case of Henderson and Mayo, both have been able to give you 18 plus home runs this season, so they're able to give you some boom, but they give you some bust as well. What I do like about this Orioles team, though, is that the bullpen has been much better recently. Yanier Cano, Uncle Rico Garcia have been your two mainstays. They've both been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but you look since July 1st, they're actually 4th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Andrew Kittredge has been really good down the stretch for this team. You've been able to find some of these mix and match guys like a Walker out there in the bullpen. He's been doing a good job. Josh Walker, a sub-3 ERA out of him. You've been able to mix and match with Grant Wolfram, being able to give you a little bit more here recently. Overall for the season, a 5 ERA, but he's been improving as things have been able to go along. And then when it comes to Brandon Young, he's just doing a nice job keeping things out in front of him. A 350 ERA, fielding depends a little bit higher because he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He's at right around about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but still, he's been giving up less than 2.7 walks per 9 innings. His home run per 9 rate is right around about 1.1 to 1.2. And on the other end, Jacob Lopez has actually been able to do an okay job here for the Athletics recently. You look at the overall season numbers, and they're not great to say the least. A 4.98 ERA, swing and miss stuff was way down to begin the season. It's starting to come back. He's back up to about 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings now. He's giving up over 4.5 walks per 9 innings. That was an issue from last season, but now he's been able to get 8 plus strikeouts in 3 out of his last 5 starts. He's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. All of a sudden here in the second half of the season, this is a Jacob Lopez that we did see in the first half of the season. Problem is, he's backed up by a bullpen that is all sorts of terrible. Now, Hogan Harris has a sub-4 ERA along with Luis Medina. They both been relatively okay, and I will say Scott Blewett hasn't been bad, but since July 1st, a 6.75 bullpen ERA. Now, these guys like Yor Tang and guys like that were just absolutely awful, they got out of there, but still, you never know when Brady Basso is going to light things on fire. Drew Rahm is not a guy that necessarily impresses you, so I did have to set the Orioles as a pretty sizable favorite, but liking what I'm seeing out of Lopez, so set a little bit of a lower total. 9.5 or less than on the over 10 or higher, the under 1 to lay up to minus 147 with the Orioles, plus 149 or better. The Athletics 971, 972 on the card. The Dodgers going to be on the road against the Tigers as Derek Anderson goes for the Tigres. Tariq Skubal is on the bump for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers sizable favorites here. Minus 210 to minus 220, plus 180 to plus 190 is the number on Detroit. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 120, the over is even. I'm going to take the Tigers here in the Tariq Skubal Bowl. I'm willing to take a plus 180 or better. Who knows what Tariq Skubal is going to throw better than the Detroit Tigers? They just had him on the roster 30 days ago. So that, I think, is actually a viable angle here for the Tigers post All-Star break. They've been averaging over 5 runs per game. That has been a top 5 mark in all of baseball. Now, for the Tigers, it's been a little bit more shaky here over we're going to call it the last 2 or so weeks, but still, you've got plenty of guys that are moving the line, getting on base for the team. Kevin McGonigal up to about a 380 on base. Riley Green has been a little bit in and out the last few days, but still, 16 bombs, 365 on base. You've gotten great production out of A.O. Lee. Whenever he's been out there, he's been able to about a 270, and then you get back Gleyber Torres. That's huge for this lineup as well. Dylan Dingler has been your main boom guy with 26 home runs, and with being able to get back Torres along with Avi Baez, you've been able to take out some of these dead bats. Like earlier in the season, you were having guys like Jake Rogers, James Outman, guys like this getting at bats. No more of that. And Eduardo Valencia, in a small sample size, hitting above a 300 as well for the Tigers. The bullpen has been a little bit more shakier in the month of August, but from June and July, you had a lot of rock solid pieces, and I think the bullpen madness is going to be very back for this team because the starter in this game, and Drew Anderson, he actually began the season coming out of the bullpen, and he's been able to do a nice job with his strikeout stuff. 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now he has given up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, a little bit over 3 walks per 9, but he's rounded into being a starter in relatively good fashion, and then you've got a bullpen behind him that has a lot of guys who have been just firing for this team. team. Jacob Aguirre's back. Drew Summers have both been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. They're picking up Tyler Kinley. That's an ad that I actually very much like for this team. Kyle Finnegan has been a little bit up and down, but still sub-350 ERA out of he and Ty Madden. And for the Dodgers, this is about a league average team with regards to their bullpen ERA. Edwin Diaz had a lot to do with that because, man, not good to say the least. And now he's on the injury list, so that's actually a little bit of an upgrade. Alex Vesia, Jack Dreyer, Edgar Enriquez. I mean, these have been guys who have been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. For Tariq Skubal, since he got to Detroit, he hasn't been bad. Like, he's getting these strikeouts, 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he also hasn't necessarily been the Tariq Skubal that we all know and love, posting up a 3.38 ERA. He's dealt with some ailment throughout the season, still getting a really nice strikeout to walk ratio, but again, I do think that the familiarity needs to be taken into account, and this is a Dodgers team that is number one in all of baseball in terms of run creation away from home. You've obviously had Shohei Ohtani be amazing, 390 on base with 30 home runs, but then Max Muncy, 350 on base, 26 home runs. Eddie Paz, 20 plus home runs. Freddie Freeman sitting at 300. He's up to 15 home runs. Mookie Betts, been a rough season for me, but he's been better here in the second half than he was towards the beginning part of the season. Someone like Miguel Rojas is able to move the line for the team. So do you think that you're going to get some run scoring here? Semi-total at a 7.7. So like the over, and for the Tigers, plus 180 or better, sign me up for that money line. 973, 974 on the card. The Astros going to be on the road against the Metropolitans as Hunter Brown is on the bump for the Astros, and it is going to be great Christian Scott for the Mets. Mets who find themselves as an underdog between plus 104 to a plus 110. Meanwhile, minus 121 to minus 126. That's your number on Houston. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 120. Under is even, and at a plus 112 or better, which we should be able to get when it's all said and done on the Mets. I'm going to be willing to trust in them on the money line. For Hunter Brown, just the command issues have been rough for him, and it's not like Christian Scott has necessarily been captain command himself, but I really like what I've seen out of Christian Scott this far this season. Right now, he's playing the team with a 373 ERA, fielding dependent right around about a 367, 11.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, he is giving up the 3.9 walks per 9 innings, but Hunter Brown is well above 4 walks per 9 innings and is getting fewer strikeouts, and for Christian Scott, the ERA goes down to a 3.38 when he's been at home as well. And then for Hunter Brown, throughout his career, he's actually typically been a better pitcher when he's been away from home rather than when he has been at home. He's pretty lucky to have the 3.51 ERA that he does right now, 4.68 fielding dependent, because again, 5.2 walks, 9.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. So do have to have a little bit of trepidation there. Now, when it comes to Astros bullpen, they have really rounded into form. Since Josh Hader has been able to come back, this has been a completely different team. And if you look ever since July 1st, this has been a unit that has been 12th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. You've seen Steven Okert do a really solid job for the team. He's posting up a sub-3 ERA. Now, Bennett Sosa, he's been hitting the toilet bowl a little bit, but after a shaky start to the season, Ryan Abreu, he's been able to do a solid job as well. And with this Astros lineup, it is one that I think is still a little bit top-heavy because those mix-and-match outfielders like Lamont Wade Jr., I know that he's on the injury list, but Bryce Matthews, Zach Cole, Zach DeZenzo, Taylor Trammell, Cam Smith, you go down the list of guys hitting a 230 or lower, it's rough. Dalton Varsho just above that with the 235, and the lone guy that's really giving you home run power is Cam Smith. Now, Yordan Alvarez, amazing, over 35 home runs, 435 on base. Isaac Paredes, he's been able to give you power with about a 360 on base. Jose Altuve, long in the tooth, but he's been better here recently. And Jeremy Pena, he's able to give you about a 335 on base. But on the other end, you do have a bunch here with the New York Mets that ever since Juan Soto went on the injury list, they've been averaging more than half a run per game more when he has been out rather than when he was in. You've been able to get some good production here out of AJ Ewing, who's been able to move the line, and additionally Carson Bench, he's up to 14 plus home runs. He's hitting about a 280. Bo Bichette still has been a waste of money, but hey, double figure amount of homers, hitting above a 250. Marcus Semien, that's just a disastrous trade. Brett Beatty's giving you nothing whatsoever, but Francisco Alvarez continues to move line about a 325 on base, and this has been a Mets bullpen that with some of these young guys like Nate Lavender, Dane Duarte, Daniil Nunez, they've really been able to step up. Still don't have any faith in Kodai Senga at the closer's role, and Nunez is still rocking an over 6 ERA for the season, but these guys have been able to step up a little bit more, so it's an interesting circumstance here. I did set my total at a 7.8 with command issues of both these pitchers. I like the over and the Mets, anything above a plus 110 on the money line. 975, 976 on the card. The Padres are going to be on the road against the Rays as Sugar Shane McClanahan is on the bump for the Rays. Casey Mize for the Padres. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 110 to a minus 120. Over is between even a minus 110 and minus 125 to a minus 132 is that number on the Rays, and between plus 110 to plus 115 for the Padres, and I'm going to be in on the Rays. I did set them at a minus 148. Now, Casey Mize, I think, is is going to start to pick it up a little bit, but in his 4 starts since joining the San Diego Padres, he is rocking an ERA that is a 7. Prior to that, he was posting up a sub-3 ERA when he was with the Tigers, and overall for the season, still solid numbers. 3.44 ERA, 3.20 fielding dependence, 0.9 home runs, 2.2 walks per 9 innings. But again, just a little bit of struggle since coming on over to San Diego, and for Shane McClanahan, took him a few starts coming off the injury list to be able to find it, but he's back to being in his good form. 3.10 ERA, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, a hair above 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, and since July 1st, the Rays actually have the better bullpen than the San Diego Padres. This is despite the fact that the Padres have all these guys like Yuki Matsui, Adrian Morejon. They do have Jason Adams still on the injury list, but hey, they get back Jeremiah Estrada, all these guys with a sub 350 ERA on top of Mason Miller, but Brian Baker, Cam Boozer, Kevin Kelly, they're providing a sub 3 ERA right now for the Rays. They got rid of Craig Kimbrell. Obviously, that's always going to help you out, and recognize that for the season, it's been a little bit rough here for Garrett Clevenger, but all in all, these guys are doing a solid job there. And then you've got the best hitter in this game. That would be Junior Caminero, who's just been absolutely incredible thus far this season, as he's posting up over 30 home runs, over 360 on base. But additionally, Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, both of these guys give you over 355 on base, with Diaz up to 19 home runs, 16 for Aranda. And then these mix and match guys just find a way on base. You've been able to have over 35 stolen bases for Chandler Simpson. He's hitting above 300. Nick Fortes, Johnny DeLuca, hitting above a 270. I love the pickup of Liam Mix at the trade deadline as well. And for the San Diego Padres, over 5 runs per game ever since the All-Star break. Like, Fernando Tatis Jr. had 5 home runs prior to the All-Star break. He's got, I think, now 12 ever since the All-Star break. Jackson Merrill's up to 20-plus bombs. He was miserable prior to the All-Star break. He's been much better. Manny Machado still not giving you average, but hey, 24 home runs or 24 home runs. Gavin Sheets, Xander Bogaerts need to do more for you. But Ty France, 355 on base, 18 home runs. Jake Cronenworth, after a miserable start to the season, he's picked it up. Luis Campusano, when he's out there, he gives you over a 355 on base, actually closer to 385 on base. So it's an interesting circumstance. I do think that Casey Mize gives you a better start here, but I think that Shane McClanahan in a pitcher-friendly ballpark helps shut down the Padres. I actually like the under here, so my total 7.3 with the Rays all the way up to a minus 147 on the money line. 927, 928 on the card. The Brewers are going to be playing us the Rangers. Cody Bradford goes for the Rangers. Logan Anderson for the Brewers, and the Brewers do find themselves as a sizable favorite, as going to be laying with them anywhere between minus 172 to a minus 185, plus 150 to plus 158 for Texas. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even, and I do like that over. I set my total at 7.8. Now, Cody Bradford has actually posted up some solid numbers in his 4 starts since coming off the injury list. Like, right now, he's posting up a 305 ERA, 318 fielding dependent, half a home run allowed per 9 innings. Lots of contact, 5.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's won up against some weaker opponents as well. And for Logan Anderson, he's just steady as she goes. 280 ERA, 10.3 strikeouts, 1.8 walks allowed per 9 innings. So he's been rock solid. And even though the Brewers don't really give you a lot of home run power, as a matter of fact, they are 30th out of 30 teams in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis. What you've been able to get out of this team, just a lot of small ball. Jackson Chourio has been one of the main boom guys. 18 home runs. He hits a 280. Andrew Vaughn is hitting above a 300. Jake Bauers over 375 on base. Now, Bauers has been on the lineup the last few days, but they do platoon him quite a bit. You've got Cooper Pratt back. He's been able to give you about a 340 on base. Gary Sanchez, even though his batting average is not good, he gives you over a 340 on base. So, I mean, just 1 through 9 has been rock solid. Heck, they've gotten nothing out of Christian Yelich as far this season. And then for the Brewers, they've been number 1 in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA this season. Now, they are dealing with the Abner Uribe injury, but they pick up Antonio Senzatella, a nice long guy at the trade deadline. Aaron Ashby, Trevor McGill, they've been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Like, even when they have out there some of these guys that they call up from the minors, they all just produce for you. Jojo Romero is coming off the injury list. DL Turner Paul has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. And for the Rangers, this team is a bottom 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA ever since the beginning of the month of July, as Peyton Gray has seen his ERA go above a 350. I like the Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz, both a sub 3 ERA, but Tyler Alexander is starting to regress a little bit. Cole Winn has over a 450 ERA. Jordan Montgomery is terrible as a long guy, and for the Rangers, this continues to be a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation. Though I will say, Corey Seager, ever since he's coming off the injury list, he's been much better. You've got Jake Berger's up to 23 home runs along with Jock Peterson. 330 on base. He's been dealing with a little bit of injury as well. Brandon Nimmo is hitting about a 260. I love, don't call his name, Alejandro Zuna, the fact that he's been able to give you about a 350 on base, but he's been in and out of the lineup as well. So you've got some question marks there, and I do think that the Brewers go out there, dominate this game. I set the Brewers on the run line at a minus 107. Right now, you're able to find plus money on that, to be specific, plus 125 to plus 130. Sign me up there, and I like the over. Did some I total here at a 7.8, and wrap things up with 929, 930 on the card. The Phillies are going to be on the road against the Angels, as Reed Detmers goes for the Halos, and you've got Andrew Painter is going to be on the bump for the Phillies. Between plus 118 to plus 130 is that number on the Halos, minus 134 to minus 140. That number on Philadelphia, 8 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. 105. Seeing an 8.5 out there as well. The under is minus 115 and the over is minus 105. Personally, I would rather have an 8.5 to the under rather than an 8 to the over. Even though for the Philadelphia Phillies, they've had a nice second half of the season, they're still a bottom 5 team on the road in the National League in terms of run creation, even with Kyle Schwarber having 39 Schwarber bombs this year, over 350 on base. You've obviously had Bryce Harper give you over a 370 on base. He's been up to 25 plus home runs, and they really shored up things with bringing in a guy in Luis Rise who does a nice job finding way on base, hitting well above a 300. You've been able to get more out of Alec Boehm. Even Bryson Stott is up to like a 340 on base right now. Trey Turner, maybe not the world's greatest average, but he's been able to give you a little bit of power as well. So the Phillies are much better than some of the home and road splits would indicate with regards to this offense. But for Reed Detmers, I really do think that he's doing for a lot of positivity for Detmers. You look at that ERA in the neighborhood of 4, and he's pitched much better than this. He's getting a hair above 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up 2.7 walks per 9, 362 ERA, but a 322 fielding dependent inning. You take a look at the way that he's been able to bear down recently, it feels like that positivity has started to come because he had a pretty disastrous start to the season, not going to lie, but he has given up a combined 1 run in his last 3 starts, going a combined 22 innings in that time span, and Andrew Painter seems to be having a little bit of a career renaissance as well. Still a 6.04 ERA, still a guy that needs to figure it out at the big league level, but he has now given up 2 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts. Now, he's not backed up by a very good bullpen whatsoever. As for this Phillies squad, you've had Yohan Duran be very rock solid for this team day in and day out, but other than that, Orion Kirkring has seen his ERA go above a 350. Brooks Raley, Jonathan Bolin, both below a 325 with their ERA, but Jose Alvarado, he's got over a 5 ERA. It's not been the same since the drug suspension. Tim Meza is a guy that you don't really trust in a ton as well. And then on the other end, the Angels have actually been a team that's been in the top 15 in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 60 or so days. Now they're dealing with injuries to the Sammys, Sammy Natera along Sam Bachman, but Jose Fermin, Ben Joyce, Luke Murphy, and I recognize that for Joyce, small sample size, sub 350 ERAs out of them. Ryan Watson was relatively okay with the Boston Red Sox, so that's a little bit of an upgrade for the bullpen. Problem has been the Angels have been averaging about 3.5 to 3.6 runs per game at home. Dead second last in all of baseball. You do have Zach Neto supplying 22 home runs, but he only hits for about a 240. Mike Trout has been stuck on 20 home runs for quite a while. 382 on base, but only a 241 batting average. Joel Chuno moves the line, 350 on base. Vaughn Grisham has given you a little bit of something, and if you squint your eyes, Josh Lowe has been improved a little bit, but still 275 on base overall for the season. Wade Meckler, when he's been out there, has been able to move line, but Henzar Guzman, along with a lot of these young guys, they just haven't been able to give you too much. So it's a circumstance where I'm actually going to be in on the Angels on the money line. I did set this at a plus 129, so getting the plus 130 or greater, I'm going to be looking there, and I do like this 8.5 to the under, so I might total it at 8.2, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have 1 or 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day, give you picks and analysis on every game, every day. So I'll be with you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.